Hello everybody and welcome back to round number 7 of this Thrustmaster Virtual GP Championship. We are here in Barcelona. It feels like ages since I've been in the commentary box, and the person that I'm sat alongside in virtual terms is Justin Sutton.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be back. Yeah, we're into the second half of the season and at a circuit that everybody knows very well.
Yeah, the Circuit de Catalunya, a lot of people know it as the championship standings have just come up on your screens, and you'll see that the gap has been reduced to 22 points after WTF1 and myself's sort of introduction to the Czech Republic and going over to their studios, and that was a fantastic race to live commentate on, and I'm hoping today that the race will be just as exciting.
So we've got a driver profile here for Peter Zubek. I'm going to be doing some translating. He's saying, "Hi, my name is Peter Zubek. I'm 21 years old and live in Most and this season. I'm racing for Avast in Virtual GP. First of all, I'm really glad that Avast have chosen me as their driver for Virtual GP Championship. Their attitude is absolutely awesome, and we've understood each other since the very first meeting, so I think that we will work well together." Well, Peter is a great guy, and since the very first moment, we knew that he has passion about the game matches, our culture here in Avast. We really admire people who are doing something because they like it rather than that they have it and with all heart. Avast is a computer company, so a digital environment is very defining for us, and also we like everything that is happening around video games, and it is actually a long-term thing that we support, and especially now that we are making our products more suitable for players, so it was more of a logical choice for us. I haven't been involved much in the world of virtual racing recently. I've been racing since 2008 and participated in many different championship leagues, leagues in R-Factor or F1 Challenge, so I'm pretty much looking forward to my comeback. Actually, I've been persuaded by Michael Schmidl, who has motivated me to race on the same track with him once again, and maybe to try to fight with him. I don't have very high expectations. I'm doing it just because I like it, and if I have some success, I'll be happy. We will be happy no matter what. For us, winning is not as important as participating. As they come onto the straight now through turn 4, through turn 5, on the run down towards turn 6, still side by side. Zubek with the inside line, but Frabish later on the brakes. Runs wide though, into the grass, still side by side. They've been side by side for 7 corners now, I think, that, and I don't see any signs of it stopping.
Oh, fantastic racing. They're still side by side going into this next right-hander. Who is going to come out on top for this battle for a 7th position? And oh, there's a little bit of contact and slight clip of the grass there, but Zubek gets through on Frabish, and well, what a beast of battling that was. Nice little piece there about Petr Zubek, and now we have a flying lap from Polesny in the Acer Predator car for this Circuit de Catalunya Spanish Grand Prix. Coming down to turn 1, you want to be braking around the 100-meter boards, turn it in, missing the apex slightly on turn 1 there, so not ideal. Coming through turns 2, and then the very long right-hander of turn 3, and it is so difficult to get the power right because you really can get on it quite early if you get the line correct. Then braking hard again for this another long right-hander coming into the second sector, the middle sector of this lap, braking hard downhill for this left-hander, probably in 2nd or 3rd gear, and then accelerating hard, coming to probably, I would say, the hardest part of the track, getting right this left-right chicane, going uphill. It's a little bit off camber, so it's quite difficult to get on the power, and now a fast right-hander, and there'll just be a small lift there, I'm sure, during the race, although with heavier fuels, I'm sure it'll be a little bit more difficult. And now coming up to the hairpin and the start of Sector 3. Again, quite difficult to get on the power, and again off camber through this left-right. So trying to hug that apex, try not to let the car run out too wide as we come to the last few corners of this Spanish Grand Prix. Again, missing the apex slightly a little bit there with Polesny, so we're going to have to sort that out for the race, but I'm pretty sure this is more of a parade lap for us. Coming through the last chicane and now round the final corner to complete a lap for this Spanish Grand Prix, and we're ready for the race.
Time to take a quick look at the qualifying results and the starting grid for today's race. It is Martin Stefanko, hot off the heels of his win at Silverstone. He takes pole position, and with the Thrustmaster driver of Jaroslav Hanzik behind him, joining him on that front row, with Michael Schmidl only able to go third fastest, the championship leader struggling a bit, nearly 2.5 tenths down on Martin Stefanko. Then comes Karl Bashko in fourth position, alongside Polesny from 5th position in the Acer Predator car. Then comes Jan Sikora for T-Mobile, Chlebek in the TP-Link car, just 1.4 seconds off the pace. Michael Blazek for BenQ in 8th position. Then comes Mistina, Lucas, and Zubek with no time set, bringing up the rear of the grid. 11 drivers starting for today's race.
Here we are then. We are ready for round number 7 of this Thrustmaster Virtual GP Championship. The lights are on and we are ready. It's lights out and away we go. Stefanko from pole position will be hoping to maintain P1 going towards the first corner, and it looks like it is pretty much lines down. Although Schmidl looks like he's lost a position to Bashko, potentially going into the first corner. No, Polesny as well getting involved. Oh, there's contact between Schmidl and Polesny. Schmidl getting away with it in 3rd position. Stefanko holding on to the lead. Bashko now in 4th position. He's got ahead of Polesny after that contact at turn 1, and Bashko not particularly close to Schmidl to challenge into turn 4, but well, Schmidl not getting a great start. The championship leader will look to try and get past Hanzik. Hanzik goes very wide though through that right-hander, but manages to hold the inside line. Schmidl's going to try and go round the outside, and there we go. Schmidl now gets pretty good traction and may have a chance, although again Hanzik will have the inside line, and a very tentative and quite nervous first lap for Hanzik here in 2nd place. Still just about ahead of Michael Schmidl. Stefanko getting a perfect start and is probably hoping that this carries on for a little while longer, Justin, so that he can get that gap that he got for the British Grand Prix.
Yeah, I'm having flashbacks to that British Grand Prix at Silverstone, only this time Hanzik actually started ahead of Schmidl, so essentially this time he just has to do the defending. Doesn't have to do any overtaking like he did last time at Stowe, but he is having to do a lot of defending here as they're heading into turn 13, into the final chicane, and you can just see how close that big shot car is. Just right up tucked underneath the gearbox of Hanzik, and yeah, in the meantime, Stefanko just pulling away, that gap growing. Here we go, Schmidl now with a great toe, actually moves to the inside, makes the move even before the braking zone into turn 1, up into P2, but again, a decent sized gap to Stefanko up ahead. Some more battling going on in the background. Zubek coming under attack from Mistina. Looks like he's just about going to hold him off, or that may have actually been an overtake, I think. Zubek grabbing that P7. Remember, he started from 11th with no time set in qualifying, so Zubek already up a number of positions, and wow, Blazek as well getting by Mistina. He is dropping like a stone, unfortunately, but Zubek, yeah, gaining a number of positions, and it looks like Blazek's just going to follow him right through, take that P8 position, while Lucas actually in 10th position, already a couple of seconds behind. Chlebek as well appears to be struggling at this Circuit de Catalunya, but Blazek again up into 8th position, trying to follow through on Zubek as we have a quick look at the replay of turn 1. And yeah, that was definitely tentative. I think everybody was a little worried about going 3 wide into turn 1. Very long run down to turn 1, so they were all coming in with high speed, and you could just see how tentative he was around the outside there. The TP-Link car doing battle with the T-Mobile car. Oh, and that's what happened to the TP-Link car. Just goes for a spin at turn 1. Unfortunate for him. Here's the onboard from Blazek's point of view. He had a great seat for that contact there. He did get held up a little bit, slight contact, but I don't think major damage. And I think that's actually how Zubek ended up gaining all of those positions, Matt.
Yeah, so that was Chlebek going round, unfortunately, back behind the wheel of the TP-Link car, but also facing the wrong way in lap 1, so that's not going to be great for him. Down in last position, lap 3 of 33, and so we've still got 30 laps for him to potentially mount a comeback, but the person that wants to really come back to the front of the field is Schmidl, and it looks like he may well be closing ever so slightly on Stefanko, and I really want to see a battle, I'm not going to lie, between these two. We haven't really seen much of a ding-dong battle between the two. We've seen like sort of gap managing and things like that over the course of the season, but we haven't seen much wheel-to-wheel racing between the two championship protagonists, as we have Chlebek now trying to get past the Robin Lucas, who is a new person or a new driver for the next 3 races. Jan Frabish unfortunately cannot participate for the next 3 races, so Robin Lucas has taken his spot, and you may well be wondering who Vit Mistina is as well. He has actually taken the place of Thomas Dolazel, who has left the championship altogether. So Mistina is a name that you will be getting used to for the rest of this season. So what is happening here? Polesny running in 5th position, 0.6 of a second or so behind Bashko in 4th. We're running with Polesny right now. Last lap in the 24s, and not particularly close just yet. But I'm really hoping to see that gap between Stefanko and Schmidl to come down, and us to really see a fight for the win that we've been waiting for quite a while. Bashko running a little bit wide there, locking his front brakes, and his Zubek, the man that we had the nice little feature about. He was speaking very, very highly of the Avast team and how supportive they are. Can he produce the results here today? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, he's all over the back of Sakura, though. This definitely seems like the battle to watch at the moment. Zubek, again, with no time set in qualifying, starting from the back of the grid. We know he's a top 5 contender. We know 7th is probably not where he's going to want to finish that race, and probably will not finish there. Shockingly, the top 5 looking very similar to the way it was at the start of the race, despite all that side-by-side battling. In the end, Schmidl making that move on Hanzik for 2nd position, but Bashko and Polesny actually where they started this race, but Polesny trying to remedy that now, as he is definitely going to be picking up some dirty air through the final corner there. But now we'll get the slipstream. I think he's going to be a little too far back here, but Bashko's actually going to go a little defensive to the middle of the circuit. Polesny just showing him his nose, essentially, not really mounting an attack. And here goes Zubek now on Sakura. He tried to go around the outside at turn 1. That did not work out so well for him, but he's got a great line coming out of turn 2 into turn 3. And again, just trying to avoid that dirty air. And Matt, this circuit can be especially punishing on that front left. You can see Zubek going very wide at the entrance of this very long turn 4. And again, just trying to avoid the dirty air. And he tries again to go around the outside, but some good defensive driving here from Sakura.
Yep, and he tried to get the undercut here, and he may well have actually managed it up the inside into the very tricky left-right-hander uphill. And he does take the position, gets on the power nicely. Zubek up into 6th position, potentially very happy about the fact that he had a little feature about him and he wants to get on the camera and show what he's made of. But he's up in P6. Hopefully he can start to push higher up the field. Obviously he had that podium back in... was it? I'm trying to think which race he had the podium, or he was running in the podium position at least.
Yeah, I think it was Germany.
I think it was Germany. I think that was a great bit of knowledge and memory from there, but I didn't want to say it. It wasn't enough. It wasn't. Oh, hold on. Stefanko, Schmidt, I just saw something red there. No, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so Stefanko's still out in front, and but that gap is going to be quite daunting for the man in the lead at the moment, because Schmidl is very much there or thereabouts, and any kind of mistake from Stefanko, and Schmidl will be all over the back of him. Polesny still behind Bashko at the moment, and it seems to be pretty much even Stevens. It's been about that gap since the start of the race. Then Blazek in 8th position. It just came up on the leaderboard there. I'm not sure what's going on there. Potentially had a little move on Jan Sakura. We didn't see that on the cameras though. And unfortunately Robin Lucas not having a great start to his races here in the Virtual GP, in 11th and 8 seconds off the pace. So making mistakes left, right and centre by the looks of things. But as I found out, this game is particularly hard with the kinds of setups that they run on the cars. It's ridiculous how much grip they seem to have and how much time I left on the table just purely trying to get used to the car. So it'd be quite interesting to see how Lucas gets used to it and then over the next 3 races. And also Mistina, who's in 9th, and that's Sakura running wide and may allow Blazek to have a move. But unfortunately this single file through this last sector, not really any sort of overtaking opportunities. And the next one that Blazek will have is down into turn 1.
Yeah, he's doing well to keep up with Sakura, but unfortunately Zubek is pulling away heaps of time, actually, while he's stuck behind Sakura. Here he goes out of the final corner. Is he going to be close enough? He'll have use of curves as he crosses the line if he doesn't have any left for that lap. Polesny, as you mentioned, one to watch in that battle against Bashko, but Blazek as well, another one to watch here again, using all of the circuit into the braking zone for turn 1. You can see those brake discs glowing as he makes his way through turns 1 and 2, up the hill through turn 3, just punishing that front left tire all the while. And Schmidl has closed that gap. It's now less than a second to Martin Stefanko as they are about halfway through Sector 2 here on lap 7. And it's looking very smooth for Mr. Schmidl here as he comes up the hill. A difficult corner, as you mentioned in the hot lap earlier, Matt. That could be a really tough one coming up that hill at turn 9, especially with that dirty air coming off of Martin Stefanko's car up ahead. We're nearly at about 1/4 distance or so, and it's looking pretty good for these two. It's a big gap down to Honzik, who again qualified on the front row. It was looking like he maybe had the pace today, but promptly dropped right off. Oh, very uncharacteristic mistake there from Schmidl. That's definitely going to lose him a little bit of time here.
Yeah, definitely. You can see the grimace on his face as he just ran wide and got caught in the grass. So a very uncharacteristic mistake, although he lost about half a second, so it's not something completely race-ruining. But Schmidl probably actually settled the nerves a little bit for Stefanko to see behind that Schmidl does make mistakes and potentially will, as I say, settle those nerves. And, oh, hold on, we've got a move here. Blazek and Sakura going down the straight. They're going to be side by side going towards turn 1. I think Blazek might have the upper hand here, and he does indeed. And Blazek up into 7th position. And those two actually fighting quite hard. I'm pretty sure they keep swapping places by the looks of things. But either way, Blazek now has the upper hand. And I'm actually quite disappointed with Honzik's showing, considering what he had done in qualifying. You know, he's up in P2. He had the pace, or the raw pace, over 1 lap to get ahead of Schmidl. And even last year was an exciting race with Schmidl, winning ahead of Honzik and Lischkak. Lischkak tried a different strategy, but he dropped behind Honzik in the final laps because his tyres couldn't make it. But it was a very exciting race. So it sounds like it was quite close, but I know the game and the versions that these guys play compared to when they last played last year is very different, and Honzik just doesn't like the ways in which the sort of the game feels and things like that compared to last year. So that's why he's fallen off the pace a little bit. But he's still very much up there as a podium runner. But he's got Bashko actually starting to potentially claw him in, about 2 or so seconds between them. So be interesting to see how that unfolds over the course of the next 24 laps.
Yeah, Polesny holding down that 5th place position. We're on board with him now, coming down the start-finish straight. He's way too far back to do anything about Bashko up ahead. But as you mentioned, Bashko actually closing in on Honzik, and Polesny not far off. And if they make any sort of mistake, Zubek now is really starting to close in. Just 3 seconds now between Zubek and Polesny. Having a quick look at Robin Lucas, who again, a rookie, so we're not going to be too harsh on him, but definitely struggling on pace at the moment. It definitely seemed like Mestina was a little bit more up to speed. He is still holding station in 9th position ahead of Chlebik, but Chlebik closing in pretty quickly. Now less than 2 seconds, in fact less than 1.5 seconds gap between Mestina and Chlebik, so that's going to be one to keep an eye on. Polesny still following behind. It's got to be punishing on those tires as he just runs in that dirty air of Bashko, especially with corners like turn 9 into the hairpin at turn 10. Haven't really seen too much overtaking attempts here at the turn 10 corner, and you can actually see Zubek closing in the background. There he is. He just went by in the background there. And I think Polesny is maybe going to have to be focusing more on his mirrors rather than the car ahead if he doesn't make this overtake soon. He is very close coming out of the final chicane. Let's see if he can get on the throttle well enough out of the final corner, pick up that toe down the straight into turn 1. It's pretty far back. I'm not sure what his KERS usage is looking like right now, but it definitely seems like Bashko's actually pulling away. So I don't know if this is down to setup, Matt, but it really seems like Bashko's got the measure of him on the straight. Yeah,
it seems like he's had the measure of him since the start of the race, to be honest. This gap really hasn't been changing all too much, considering Polesny has that toe down the straight, but as you've mentioned, also the dirty air throughout the whole of the lap. So it kind of is, well, it's kind of 50 of one thing and 50 of another, so it's kind of sort of equaling themselves out. But if Bashko makes any kind of mistake, then Polesny will definitely make a move by the looks of things. He wants to get back into 4th position if he can. But as I say, very matched on pace at the moment. Honzik, oh, that's a bit wide from Polesny there. A little bit of a mistake. But Honzik in a bit of a world of his own at the moment, about 3 seconds or so ahead of Bashko, but then completely and utterly nowhere near the leaders. So speaking of the leaders, Stefanko and Schmidl still around a second or just over a second. I guess it's worth mentioning as there's not much going on track at the moment, that the driver of the day vote is on our website, which is, I think, when I say our website, the Virtual GP website, which I think pops up on the screen quite a lot, so you will see that. So you can vote for your favourite drivers. Polesny and Stefanko are 2 of the favourite drivers so far, with 2 wins in the voting each. And a competition for luxury Swiss watches, thanks to Certina, is also on the Virtual GP website. Mavic has 96 points, just ahead of McLaren Honda, so it seems like McLaren Honda's actually not winning anymore, which wouldn't surprise me, with 89 points. So 7 points separating those two. And third is Azarius CZ, who is also in contention with 82 points. So that's interesting there. I can't say I'd be doing too well if... actually, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you could predict the kind of areas in which drivers would finish, couldn't you, really? I mean, it's not as if there's many surprises. Zubek being on the podium was probably one, but it seems like there's usually the kind of the guys that you kind of expect to be there.
Yeah.
Actually, just to mention as well, is that Bashko on mediums? I didn't even notice that.
Oh, yeah, Bashko is on mediums. Good spot. I don't know how we completely missed that after 11 laps of racing, but yep. And yeah, as far as predicting the front, I would say it's a 50-50 affair when it comes to the predictions as who's going to win the race. And the two guys that are at the front right now are proving me right, as Stefanko and Schmidl continue to pull away from the rest of the field. But really, Stefanko seems on it. We had that moment where Schmidl really closed up, and then he had that mistake and dropped back, and he really hasn't been able to claw that time back since that mistake. Meanwhile, Hanzik now at over a 6-second gap between himself and the leaders, and that gap behind him has really started to stabilize now, right around 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds or so. So Bashko and Polesny still going at it. Schlebeck has caught up to Mestina. We saw that coming from a mile away. The TP Link car getting very, very close now. I don't think he's going to have an overtake attempt into turn 1 as you see them coming out of that final corner. He's going to get a bit of a slipstream here, but it's not nearly going to be enough to get him alongside into the first corner. And no, yeah, he's going to be way too far back there. But Schlebeck starting to, after that spin on lap 1, starting to move his way back up. He is into 10th position and eyeing that 9th place position. And then it's a pretty decent sized gap up to Sakura. So bar any chaos or insanity in this race, Schlebeck might be looking at a P9 finish as his best possible result. But Mestina, I'm sure, is going to be doing his best. He does seem quite a bit more comfortable with the car and circuit, certainly compared to Robin Lucas, but he's got Schlebeck behind, and he is probably hungry for the extra point. So yeah, he's going to be keeping an eye on his mirrors here, and of course that can be troublesome for a driver. You start looking in the mirrors too much, you start making mistakes. But he's looking pretty good so far, as Sakura up ahead, looking like he had a little bit of a lockup into that turn 10 hairpin on board with Schmidl. And actually the gap has grown nearly 2 seconds now, the gap between himself and Stefanko, as we start lap 13 now, past the 1/3 distance marker, and Schmidl is just about keeping up, but really not seeming like any sort of serious threat for the lead here, Matt.
Yeah, 3/10 slower than Stefanko that last lap, which is going to be pretty huge. They're in the mid-23s. Then you've got Bashko and Polesny. Well, Polesny a lot quicker than Bashko that last lap. 24.2 compared to a 24.8 for Bashko. But that just kind of shows how much of a world the top two guys are apart from the rest of them. I'm sure Honzik's probably in the low 24s because he's not quite with the leaders, but he's ahead of these guys. And, well, it's... It's going to be an interesting one. Stefanko, I was just watching him on the camera, and he seemed very intense, he was concentrating like no tomorrow. He really does want to win this championship, and you can see him all the way on the right there, sat next to Honzik. And
I don't think he's blinking.
No, I don't think he's blinked for 13 laps, which is impressive, considering it can get quite hot in there as well in that particular office. Although they do have aircon, which is very nice indeed. I'm sure, especially in the summer. But quite interesting to see Bashko's strategy on the mediums, which means I'm sure Polesny will start to come at him towards the end of the stint. And speaking of mediums and strategy in general, the hard, the medium and the super softs are available for the drivers. And there's two strategies that have seemed to be the most popular. It depends on the driver's style and car setup. Depending on whether they're a little bit easier on the tyres, they may go medium hard, or they may go for 2 sets of the hard tyres. But Bashko definitely seems like he's going for a medium hard. Unless he can get it to sort of lap 16, 17 and feels pretty decent on them, then he might go for another set of mediums. We never know. But we will find out very shortly, I'm sure. And Zubek is closing in on this battle ahead, and we may well have a three-way fight for 4th place very soon. Zubek taking 0.6 of a second out of Polesny, who really seems to be held a little bit by Bashko. Because he can't seem to get through, and he can't probably seem to concentrate as much because he's so focused on Bashko ahead. But he's probably running wide a little bit with the dirty air as well. So we could well see Zubek joining this and fighting for P4.
Yep, he is getting very close, as you said. Polesny really needs to try and find a way by, but again, he just seems to be struggling on the straights. He's very close into the turn 10 hairpin here. That's about as close as we've seen him since the start of this race, but really just was not able to pull alongside, and he's definitely getting held up at this point. I think Bashko's tires are well past their best at this point. And through the final chicane they go once again, and it does look like Bashko is actually going to peel off into the pits. He's tired of those medium compound tires, but unfortunately for Polesny, that has happened right after Zubek has closed up onto the back of him. I wonder if we're going to see a move here for P4 pretty quickly. Chlebek, meanwhile, still running behind Mestina, hasn't been able to find a way by him just yet, but looking to find a way by now, it looks like. He's certainly closer than we've seen. Oh yeah, out of that final corner, Mestina is very wide. He may have even lifted there. Chlebek tucking into that slipstream on the rundown towards turn 1. Mestina, oh, we've got a car coming out of the pits as well. That's going to get very interesting, but no, Chlebek not able to make the move. Again, I think we're seeing the same problem, just a deficit of top speed. Chlebek just not able to pull alongside, and it's incredible how close he was to Mestina coming out of that final corner, and the fact he couldn't even get alongside, that's definitely got to be worrying for the TP-Link driver, because if you can't get by there at that time, you got to wonder if you're going to be able to get by at all. And unfortunately for Bashko, he's now fed out directly behind this battle, and as we all know, it's more than twice as difficult to overtake 2 cars than it is 1 car, so he's definitely going to have his hands full of that one. As the leaders know, just Schmidl is into the pit. Stefanko is going to continue on for another lap, but Schmidl coming in at the end of lap 15 is going to probably go for another set of the hard compound tires, you would imagine, as Peter Zubek comes through the final corner. He should take that position off of Schmidl. Yes, he does. Polesny as well into the pits at the end of lap 15. He'll have both of those guys will have an 18-lap stint on the hard compound tires, but of course, they will be lighter on fuel.
Schmidl going for the undercut, so we might have a bit of an interesting battle coming out of the pits, although Stefanko had extended the lead to about 2.2 seconds when Schmidl came into the pits. So can he put in some stunning lap times on these new hard compound tyres? And that's going to be close going into turn 1. There's Bashko, and oh dear, Bashko is actually just behind Polesny. So that is the battle for P4, and Polesny's got ahead. So even though Bashko pitted earlier, Polesny, with that clean air, manages to get ahead of Bashko, and I'm sure these two are going to be battling hammer and tong for the rest of this race, and they still haven't really, well, Bashko hadn't really caught up to Chlebek and Mestina, so it seems like maybe the drivers are struggling to get some temperature in the tyres, and in fact the undercut isn't actually that beneficial at all. We'll find out very shortly when Stefanko, I'm sure, will come into the pits, and as he does, literally as I say that, I see the pit sign come up. So Stefanko into the pits. Can he have a good pit stop? Because I remember he had a very bad one a couple of races ago, and that cost him 7-8 seconds. I wasn't sure what that was about, but we're going to find out and see. Can Stefanko stay in the net race lead? Honzik's in the pits as well. Zubek is also in the pits. This is Schmidl coming down the straight now. Where is Stefanko? He is apparently out of the pits already. There you can see him in the distance, and Schmidl is not that close, although it is going to get closer, because he has pretty much a compromised line into turn 1, and he'll have cold tyres, so Schmidl may well be within the 1 second or even closer window, and it's now 0.9 seconds apparently. Schmidl could have a chance, and I think the only chance he'll get is on this lap, Justin.
Yep, Zubek is going to feed back out into 5th position after his stop, actually. He's going to be ahead of Polesny and Bashko, so yeah, it seems the overcut actually potentially more stronger here at the Circuit de Catalunya, as Polesny, now down into 6th position, is finally ahead of Bashko. But yeah, it seems like all the overtakes here, Matt, are happening.
0.2. We want to see the fight for the lead. There it is.
There it is. Yeah, Schmidl getting very close up the hill through turn 9, going to be picking up lots of dirty air through there. Stefanko holding that line, doing well, and Schmidl having a little look, just showing him that he's there into the turn 10 hairpin. Again, Schmidl with warmer tires, Stefanko with healthier tires. So, but those are going to be coming up to temperature very quickly, especially with corners like this one that just go on and on. Turn 12 is just the right-hander that won't stop into the final chicane to finish up lap number 17. Halfway distance through this race, and it is getting very close. A big old gap to the cars behind, and it looks like, yeah, it seems like Stefanko's so much better through that final corner. Schmidl's not going to have any chance here at the end of the straight, I don't think.
No, not yet, but this is going to test Stefanko's nerve with Schmidl bearing down on him behind him. And, well, I really cannot wait to see how this battle will unfold as we have Honzik into the pits again.
That's an interesting one. I'm not sure what happened there, but yep, looks like Honzik needs to go through again. I don't know if that's a penalty or if he had a problem with the tires, but Schmidl sticking to the back of Stefanko, still very, very close as they come down the hill now from, I believe, the highest point on the circuit at turn 4, down the hill through turn 5.
I love watching
sticking with him pretty well.
I love Schmidl's just like his tiny little corrections that he makes into each corner, like he just.
Yep, just the smallest corrections. Yeah, he is a professional driver. Ooh, running a bit wide there as we have a replay of Zubek and Polesny, I believe this was. Yeah, the Acer Predator car running very close to the Avast car. Oh, out of turn 2, side by side. Oh, contact. Zubek making contact with Polesny. He's off the circuit into the gravel. Here's an onboard with Polesny as, yeah, it was just Zubek running very wide there. Moves back across. Ooh, yeah, I have to say that Polesny was totally innocent in that one. I don't think Zubek expected him to be on his left-hand side, but that is not really an excuse as we move back to the battle, excuse me, the battle for the, yeah, the Beatles are playing at this race. That's how exciting it is. Stefanko defending from Schmidl as they start lap number 19, but again, I think we're just seeing a problem with straight line speed here now.
Yep, definitely. Apologies for that brief stoppage where I just stopped talking. I got interrupted during this commentary, but I am back and the distraction has been removed. So Schmidl is all over the back of Stefanko, and this is what I've waited for. This battle where Schmidl is bearing down on Stefanko. It doesn't seem like when it's the other way around, Stefanko really has that extra 1% to make something happen, but it does seem like Schmidl does have the edge when it comes to these kinds of scenarios, because he's won a lot more races this season than Stefanko. But, well, I can't wait. I just want to see what the wheel-to-wheel racing is like, and hopefully Schmidl will get an opportunity. Honzik down in 8th. We haven't seen why, have we yet, Justin? But he's down in 8th position at the moment. Polesny was the one that got punted off. But we haven't seen any reason as to why Honzik is now down in 8th position. Maybe he got so bored in 3rd that he went for another pit stop. I highly doubt it, but I would imagine the reason that he would have got that as he goes round the outside of Sakura. Just shows the amount of pace he has in that car. Oh, Sakura having a little look back up the inside. Nothing really doing just yet. Sakura again having a little look, but no, Honzik has taken 7th place. Sakura runs wide. That is P7 safe and sound, but I'd imagine it was speeding in the pit lane for Honzik. That's the only thing I can really think of that would require him to go back through the pits and battle rejoin. 13 laps to go, and Schmidl is all over the back of Stefanko, but it's not close enough to really warrant a move just yet. But he takes a little bit more speed through there, it seemed. Yeah, he gained over 2 tenths at the looks of things. Under braking as well, gets much closer, but as with racing, under braking, obviously the chasing car closes in, but the person in front gets on the power earlier. And what is going on here? Is that Blazek and Polesny going? That's it. No, that's Blazek and no, I don't even know who that is.
I'm not sure either.
Oh no, that's Lucas. Oh, Lucas is throwing a spanner in the works there. So I was like, wait, what? That's not Honzik and that's not Polesny. So that was Blazek and Lucas there who was getting out of the way. He is a lap down, and well, this is crucial for the championship. 22 points. Stefanko is behind Schmidl. He needs every race win he can get. And right now he is in the lead of this race. He has a chance. It is all down to him. He doesn't have to think about Schmidl's mistakes or anything like that. This is all down to how Stefanko drives. And as long as he gets a good exit out of this final corner, which he seems to do, Justin, he's going to keep P1 if there's no errors.
Yeah, he's like a machine coming out of that final corner. It's such an easy corner to make a mistake at because you're getting on the throttle, pretty much full throttle, really, depending on tire life and how much fuel you're carrying. But yeah, Stefanko is just incredibly precise out of that final corner, and it is definitely the most important corner on the circuit with that long start-finish straight. Schmidl, again, using all of the circuit and then some in order to close up on Stefanko, but again, really nothing doing there. It's a very short run out of turn 4 down towards turn 5. Karl Bashko in 4th position, not far behind Zubek, and Polesny pretty far off now after that incident where he went into the gravel, so he's now down into 5th position.
How was Zubek ended up in P3?
Yeah, that was in the pit stop phase. So and then also I think the contact with Polesny and everything. So yes, I mean, he definitely waved his magic wand and just found himself.
He was catching. Wasn't he? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think just in the chaos of the pit stop phase and with that contact with Polesny, Zubek just easing into that podium position, and that would be a fantastic result for him, as it would be for anybody other than Stefanko or Schmidl. I think those guys would punch the steering wheel if they got 3rd position. But Schmidl, here we go, out of the final. And again, the precision driving from Stefanko as he comes out of that final corner, just barely kissing that curb, no mistakes.
Difference in the lap times as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible stuff between these two guys, real competitors. It's a shame that it's an over 30-second gap back to Zubek, because I really would like to see a 3rd car getting involved in this. But with Schmidl and Stefanko just stuck together like this, it does make for good watching as we're on lap number 22, approaching 2/3 distance of this race, and these guys are closer than they've ever been, and Schmidl is just piling on the pressure. Stefanko cannot let up, and I mean, he's almost emotionless. I mean, I would definitely equate Stefanko to like a Rosberg type personality. You know, there is not a whole lot of emotion going on the left-hand side of your screens right now, viewers, but on the right-hand side, Schmidl's always got that cheeky little smile. It seems like he's got something up his sleeve, and we'll see here. He doesn't have anything up his sleeve in the turn 10 hairpin, but he'll have another go here out of the final corner, and we'll see if he can get the job done into turn 1.
Don't think he will do. Still, no. I mean, you say that Stefanko, you know, he does seem very emotionless right now, but when he's not racing, he is absolutely like buzzing about this whole event, and he absolutely loves racing in the Virtual GP. And he was saying how he was really nervous going into the British Grand Prix and the qualifying and things. And it was quite nice to see, you know, as much as that will show, maybe, you know, think that he's like a Kimi Raikkonen and he doesn't really, you know, want to say anything or do anything. But yeah, off the steering wheel, off the racing track, he is very emotive. So Stefanko, very much in the absolute peak of his concentration, and he needs to be. Schmidl is an absolute force to be reckoned with, and he will not let up until lap 33, going over the checkered, or the finish line for the checkered flag. And I'm pretty sure Stefanko will breathe a massive sigh of relief if he can win this race, and may well need to have to go for a little bath as well, because I'm not sure many people would enjoy the amount of relentless pressure that Schmidl is putting down on him.
Yep, he's got 10 more laps until he can blink, but Stefanko is more than 2/3 of the way through. On board with Mestina, less than 2 seconds away from Chlebik up ahead, and I do believe he is lapping Robin Lucas at the moment. Yep, that is Lucas getting lapped by Chlebik, and Mestina is going to have to do the same in that DX Racer car pretty quickly here, and I do believe the Lynx car is going to get out of the way very nicely. Yeah, he goes wide at turn 3, lets Mestina through, no problem. If nothing else, he's getting some fantastic practice on how to deal with blue flags in this Spanish Grand Prix. Unfortunate for him, but I'm sure we will see improvements from him as the season goes on. Mestina, though, of course, is going to be here for the remainder of the season. And he is closing in on Chlebik, I think. I don't know if Chlebik was held up a lot by Lucas there, but we could see a battle for P9 start to develop as the gaps have started to spread out a little bit, really. This is the one to watch. Stefanko and Schmidl still separated by less than a second. Of course, no DRS in Virtual GP, but they do have the slipstream, they do have the curves.
200 separating each other from that lap as well. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. They are absolutely locked in, these two. There's nothing to separate them, and the only thing that will separate them is a small, tiny mistake from either of them. If Schmidl makes a mistake, goes out of a second, maybe I think Stefanko will have it covered. But at the same time, if Stefanko makes a slight mistake, Schmidl will absolutely capitalise on that. And wow, it is absolutely crazy to see how close these guys are in terms of their lap times. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had within a tenth this time as well. It seems like it's been that way the whole race. I'd love to see the race director afterwards of all of their lap times. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't know whose is which because they'd be exactly the same. So coming through the last chicane for the 24th time. Stefanko getting a nice run again. Not as nice potentially as he has done in other times. 22-1 to 22-2, so a 10th there for Schmidl even on Stefanko. And it's little margins like that. Another 5 laps of a 10th and he'll have a move into turn 1. But it's getting that close and staying that close, which is the challenge. And as the tyres start to go off, maybe Stefanko will get a little bit more of an advantage because he has that lap fresher tyres, which may well be the winning sort of element to this, is that a very small margin, maybe half a tenth extra performance that comes from those tyres may well be what keeps Stefanko in the lead of this race.
Yeah, unbelievably staying out the extra lap and letting Schmidl attempt the undercut as well might be what helps him to win this race. I mean, his incredible talent and speed is what has him there, but certainly the fact that Schmidl came in that lap earlier and came out on those cold tires, and Stefanko's had nothing but clean air all race along. Meanwhile, Hanzik is closing up on Blazek. That is the good part about having him drop down to 8th position previously. He's up to 7th now and is going to be pressuring Blazek here for 6th position pretty quickly. I would imagine 8 laps remaining, and I think Blazek's going to have a hard time. And then it's not a giant gap either to Polesny, so we could still see a top 5 finish for Hanzik in this race potentially, as here we go through the final corner once again for the top 2, and Schmidl definitely seems closer than he was on the previous laps. Not much closer, and again, just taking a look, this time Stefanko actually pulling out just under
there, Justin.
a 10th. Yep, and Stefanko doing well on that previous lap. Schmidl sticking with him, but yeah, doesn't look like he's too much closer than he was previously. Not able to get alongside, that much is for sure. He's not even really able to get within a car's distance, a car length of him as they go through turn 4 there. Schmidl pretty far back still, on board with Bashko, who's in that 4th place position. I have to imagine he is happy with that, and I don't think he's really going to come under threat from Polesny at this point, or Hanzik. Watch me be completely wrong at the end of the race. But yeah, I would say Bashko's looking in a good spot, could get a nice haul of points here today at the Spanish Grand Prix, but I think, and we all knew this comes as no surprise, ever since dropping down the order, this is the man to watch right here.
Yeah, of course, he's in the high 22s compared to the guys kind of doing 23s ahead of him, and he did a much better lap the last lap. It was a 22.6 or something like that. So Hanzik maybe dropping off the pace a little bit, maybe pushing the tyres very hard, but either way he's up on Blazek. It really does depend how quickly he passes Blazek as to whether or not Polesny comes under pressure towards the end of this race, and I'm sure Blazek will put up as much of a fight as he can, because this track isn't the best for overtaking, as we've seen for the fight for the lead, is that unless you get a massively good run at the final corner, which really does require a mistake from your competitor, there isn't many places to overtake, potentially down here into the hairpin, but again, you need to have such a good run, because there's no DRS in this league or anything like that, so you really have to have just much better tyres or much better pace to get the move done. So can Hanzik do that? He's about 7/10 or 8/10 a lap quicker than Blazek ahead of him, so I'm sure that would be more than enough pace to make it happen, and that's a little bit of a lock-up into the hairpin as well, into the chicane as well. Oh, who's that in the... Well, that's Polesny. Polesny's made the mistake and gifted Hanzik P6, and oh my days, he's thrown away a great result, Polesny. Now he's down in 7th, potentially with some damage, and Sakura, I'm sure, will be sniffing some blood there for P7, and oh dearie me, Polesny's going to be absolutely fuming with himself.
Yeah, he can't be happy with that one, and as you mentioned, he is definitely going to come under attack from Sakura pretty quickly. I mean, that's just the nature of racing drivers. They smell blood in the water, they see that weakness in the driver up ahead, and then they're just filled with adrenaline, and they know that they can get that job done, and they're going to try that little bit harder. And Hanzik, he doesn't even need to smell blood in the water or anything. He knows that he's faster than Michael Blazek. He knows that he can get by him. And we've seen some overtakes, shockingly, into turn 7 here. As we climb the hill through turn 7 and 8 now, we've seen the overtakes with the inside line turning into 7. And if you can get that line, it can be very beneficial. But Hanzik picking up boatloads of understeer coming up that hill through turn 9. That's going to lose him a little bit of time to Blazek up ahead, but with just a handful of laps remaining, I just don't see the BenQ driver being able to hold on to that position from Jaroslav Hanzik. But I do think, as I mentioned before, I think Bashko is going to be in a pretty good spot. I think he's holding on to that 4th place, and Zubek as well, again, who took that 3rd place very sneakily, almost like a ninja, grabbing that podium position earlier in the race during the pit stop phase. and he's looking very comfortable. He's actually holding that gap. That gap's been around 30 seconds between Zubek and Schmidl for a while now. So incredibly, Zubek does seem to be on pace with the leaders, even though he is not up there with them. So again, I have to wonder where he would have been if not for issues, problems. I mean, he started from the back of the grid. The guy's gone from last to third. That's very impressive stuff, but I would have liked to have seen what his race would have been like if he had started third.
I think he wouldn't have been with Schmidl and Stefanko, if I'm honest. I think he probably would have been maybe 10 seconds or so, potentially, but I think Zubek probably wouldn't have had any better of a result if he had started higher up the grid. I think P3 is definitely the best he could have hoped for, especially with Honzik having that extra pit stop for whatever reason we do not know just yet, and hopefully Honzik will be able to salvage something and get back up to P5 at least, and maybe have a chance at Bashko, but he cannot get through on Blazek, and this is really costing him any chance of getting P4, and it's really a little bit too far for the amount of laps that are left in this race. And Schmidl and Stefanko are getting to 0.5 seconds, which makes me a little bit concerned for the lead here. Them going down the straight as well, I believe. Actually, no, they'll be in first sector by now. And yeah, well, it's getting close up front by the looks of things according to the timing. And Honzik is not close enough again to get past Blazek, and really seems like he's getting affected now by following this car, because he's now doing the same lap times as Blazek compared to catching him about 7 or 8 tenths a lap. And I just found it really interesting to see Stefanko and Schmidl in the 22 flats, which is just over a second a lap quicker than the guys behind, which just really does put them in another universe. Those two are aliens.
Yeah, and I mean, in qualifying, you could see it as well. The only people in the 119s were Stefanko, Schmidl, and this man here, Jaroslav Honzik, who, again, does definitely seem to be stuck behind Blazek. He's definitely being held up as we move on board with our leader as he starts a new lap, and he's going to have to find his way around Robin Lucas once again, unfortunately closing up to him right at the end of the straight. He might have picked up a little bit of a slipstream, but he's going to be getting some dirty air through here. Let's see if the new driver is going to move to the side through turn 3. No, that is definitely going to be holding him up. And is he going to move to the side at turn 4? No, he's going to hang on to the racing line. Let's see if he's going to let him through now. Yes, he does through turn 4, but Schmidl has definitely closed the gap between himself and Stefanko. Let's see if he can do anything about it. He gets very close under braking down the hill for turn 5 and accelerating out of there towards turn 6. And we've moved away from that battle, so I really hope something good is about to happen with Honzik here. With Blazek up ahead, he's very close coming out of the final corner, but then it seemed like he just lost that little bit of time.
A bit too hard there, and he couldn't get on the power, and his rears lit up. So unfortunately for Honzik, nothing doing there. But we want to see the fight for the lead, which is so close out in front. Stefanko, if he wins this race, that is a champion's drive from him, because he has just withstood the pressure for so long. But Schmidl is there, and we could have a very exciting last few laps of this race as they come through the last chicane. But this is not where Schmidl can make the move, because Stefanko seems too good on the power, although it is still pretty close going over the start-finish straight. I don't think it'll be close enough into turn 1, but Schmidl will be there and waiting to pounce on any kind of mistake from Stefanko, as we now back on board with Honzik, who gets a lot of understeer once again through that long right-hander. You have to say Schmidl must have the better race pace to be able to follow Stefanko so closely and deal with all the dirty air that he is receiving throughout the lap. It does kind of show you that potentially if Schmidl was to get ahead, I don't think Stefanko would have an answer. And, well, for Stefanko's sake, let's hope Schmidl doesn't get through. And, well, let's see. Will Honzik get a better run through this last chicane this time out? Although I'm sure... Oh, that was a bit of oversteer there for Blazek. And again, Honzik not close enough. And Slipstream really just not powerful enough. And Honzik wiping his face of sweat there as it's getting pretty hot towards the end of this race.
Yep, the pressure is definitely starting to affect his sweat glands, and I don't blame him whatsoever. He has the potential to grab some extra points here off of Blazek, but he's going to have to do something pretty incredible. And speaking of incredible, Schmidl as well is going to have to either hope for a mistake as we're approaching the penultimate lap of the Spanish Grand Prix, the 7th round of this Virtual GP series, and yeah, we're already past the halfway point, so I mean, this is more important than ever and I believe it's a 22-point gap between these two, so if they were to finish like this, Stefanko would actually close that gap down to just 15 points if they finish like that. Moving back on board with Honzik, these guys still on lap 31, as the leaders are way ahead, already into Sector 1 of lap 32, and Honzik is so close through that turn 10 hairpin, but then there's just no overtaking opportunities whatsoever until turn 1. After you get through that hairpin at turn 10, he's so close to Blazek. It's painful to watch almost, as he's just nearly running into the back of the BenQ car. The Thrustmaster driver getting very close, but then look at him go. Blazek, great on the throttle, incredible traction coming out of turn 15, and is just able to carry that speed through turn 16, and just so much speed as he comes onto the start-finish straight. And yeah, 2 more laps for Honzik. He's got 2 more laps to try and make a move. If he can, it's certainly going to be difficult for him. But Schmidl has even less time than that, Matt. He's only got 1 lap.
Yeah, it seems like he's dropped off by a couple of tenths. And he's really going to have to put absolute balls to the wall for this final lap, although this would be his last chance. And he just cannot get the traction. So Schmidl, potentially with his tyres falling off a little bit, I think Stefanko has got this in the bag as we start the final lap of this round 7 Spanish Grand Prix for the Thrustmaster Virtual GP Championship. And Stefanko is staking his claim on the title here. He has 1 more rotation of this track. He's done a 21.8 on that last lap. That's the fastest lap I think he's done all race. And with that pressure that he's had behind, all he has to do is keep it on the black stuff, and he will be crowned the winner of this Spanish Grand Prix. Honzik also following Blazek, and he has 1 more lap. Can he make the move? He has to do it through this last chicane and on the straight, because it's the only time he's going to get the entire straight to get in the slipstream. And Blazek is just so slow, but that's nice on the apex there. Can he get on the power? That's much better this time, and maybe, oh, that's sideways for Blazek, and this might be Honzik's only chance in the slipstream now. Honzik has to make a move into turn 1, but he doesn't seem to be maybe quick enough on the straight. Here goes Honzik. Can he make a move into turn 1? He doesn't. He goes onto the racing line. Blazek is very defensive, so he could have a run down towards turn 4, but it just seems impossible to get through, and he just understeers through this long right-hander, and we come back on board with the leader, Martin Stefanko. He has the chicane to deal with one final time, and he comes round the last corner, and he is going to win the Spanish Grand Prix. I'm so happy for him. That is a fantastic drive. He gives it a fist pump. Schmidl, no fist pump from him today. Does a little... gives it the... I'm not sure what... Yeah, he's
going to go surfing.
The phone call sign.
It's like a hang 10.
But either way, Schmidl, I'm sure, okay with second place. He gave it every single piece of his driving ability that he could to try and win this race. Zubek, what a drive from him as well. Stefanko gets my drive of the day, but Zubek a very close second, because he came from last on the grid to 3rd place. And what about Honzik? Can he make some kind of last-ditched effort to get to P5? He is practically pushing Blazek around. Polesny is catching the pair of them. If there's a couple more laps, then maybe. But, oh, it's just Blazek puts his car in all the right places. And that is great defensive driving from Blazek, you have to say. P5 for him. Honzik finishes in P6. Polesny P7. And, wow, that was a close little end to the race there. Sakura's going to come home in 8th. Schlebeck, after that very disappointing incident at the start of the race, in 9th. And then the 2 sort of rookies to the league, Mistina and Lucas, will finish in 10th and 11th. Not the most exciting race of them all. It was interesting to see the fight at the front, the mind games, just the general consistency of those two is mind-boggling. But it wasn't quite the Great British Grand Prix that we had last time out at the end, but it was still entertaining nevertheless.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good one. Yeah, it was very, very close between the top 2. Yeah, would have been nice to see some more battling, but that is kind of the nature of the circuit. Not a lot of overtaking opportunities at the Circuit de Catalunya, but fantastic defensive drive from Michael Blazek. Fantastic drive for Zubek to go from last to 3rd. And Stefanko, as you mentioned, I think driver of the day. He didn't put a single foot wrong the entire race. He was completely faultless, an incredible drive, and well-deserved.
So there we have it, the race results. The fastest lap as well goes to Stefanko, a 21.8, which I mentioned, and 0.3 of a second. That's all it was between the two at the front. And then it was a gargantuan gap to P3. Petr Zubek, 32.4 seconds off the pace, but very, very impressive drive from him. Karl Bashko finishes in 4th, a great result for him as well, finishing ahead of Blasek, and we would have seen the bottom half there, but it's moved. And the championship, as you can see, is now reduced to 14 points after that fastest lap as well. Honzik's in P3 still after that disappointing result here today, and there is the final podium. I was there last time. It seems all familiar. Petr Zubek doesn't look particularly happy, but either way, thank you very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you very soon for the next round. Goodbye.